sooner, given what we have done in places like, let's say, I mean, supporting Egypt, supporting Israel. I mean, basically, Israel has occupied Gaza and the I mean, just it's been the worst sort of tyranny there in Palestine, and so we're directly, that's on American hands. That's a direct result of American foreign policy. They wouldn't be able to do it without American helicopters and American bombs. And this is true also in Turkey. I mean, we've given massive amounts of military support to the Turkish government, and in the last 10 years, 30,000 Kurds have died at the hands of the Turkish government. So, and you know, this is not me. I mean, there's the author who was just recently acquitted in Turkey for making these claims about these sort of anti-Turkish. He was brought to charge. Yeah, or Hamframuk, that's right, I forgot his name.
So many Turkish people died too.
Yeah, of course. And so, you know, when I look at 9/11, that is a moment where it really had nothing to do with religion. That's a political act. And it's a political act that is the response of the powerless against the absolute power. I mean, and hey, these things happened in Rome during the Roman Empire too, not in quite the same way, obviously, you know, terrorist attacks, but certainly the same kind of rebellion. And, you know, I think we're going to see more of it as long as America is on this track to world hegemony and the neoconservative movement is in power. These people who say, hey, this is the new American century. We're going to control the Middle East. I mean, as long as that continues, yeah, we're going to see more of this. And I don't think it really has much to do with religion. I think it has speaks directly to a holdover of essentially what you might call a neo-colonialism, right? I mean, the colonialism of the 19th century is gone and past, but America's empire of bases throughout the world is really, and our attempt to sort of police the Middle East, but also the South China Sea and other important oil routes, et cetera, that this is a new empire, and that's what happens to empires. And I think, you know, I would not say it's justified, but I certainly was not at all surprised by 9/11.
So it didn't change. Actually, what I wanted to ask is, did it change your views
about Islam?
Or?
I don't think so. No, I think I also have been a student of world religion, and I was quite familiar. I've read the Quran. I've read several books on Islam from a variety of sources. So my view of Islam was unchanged. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think of peace? Should we talk about that?
Well, I like the idea. I think I like the idea of dialogue, as I said, and I think it needs to be more than simply interfaith dialogue. I think that world peace is a wonderful idea, and I want to be hopeful, although my sort of reflection on world history, my knowledge of world history, leads me to believe that it's going to be very difficult. Yeah, I mean, it's not to say that it's never going to happen, but I think many things will have to change first.
What activities in Turkey, if you just give us a last analysis about him?
Well, like I said, I mean, from what I read, I feel very ambivalent. I think I could not discern a clear theoretical point of view in the things that I read. I don't think that there is a clear, at least from what I've read, I did not find a clear theory of dialogue and a clear strategy of implementation. But what I found was a more, I mean, quite honestly, I felt like I was reading kind of Christian devotional literature in reading much of the Gulen writings. And that has a place. I mean, certainly that's important, but by the same token, you know, well, let me say this. When we were at the Artists and Writers Foundation meeting, one of the comments by the guy who was emceeing the meeting was, you know, we've been talking about dialogue for a long time, and now it's time to, you know, implement action. And one of my colleagues asked a question about the media. And, well, here, we've got this problem in the United States where we have basically our entire media system controlled by 6 major companies. And guess what? It's even worse in Turkey. There's 3 major companies. And we brought that up, and my colleague brought that up, and seemingly at the kind of forum that you would bring that up, the Artists and Writers Association. And, what I basically said, well, we tried to have a conference about that, and we were told no. And I thought, well, then, if we're talking about dialogue and we're talking about communication, then, one of the things I think that the Gulen movement ought to be working towards actively, right, is breaking down these barriers in the media system in Turkey. Making people aware, trying to subvert the dominant propaganda. This is what I think is important in the United States as well. Don't get me wrong. I'm not pointing a finger at Turkey. I think that's even more critical here. In general, I think dialogue's great, and it certainly is emotionally moving to see, the Greek archbishop together with imams and Gulen, and to see those images. That is certainly emotionally moving. It's very powerful. But in terms of concrete changes, how are these going to be manifest in concrete modifications of the political realities in that part of the world? I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's been particularly effective in that regard.
It will take time, maybe, to change something.
Well, yeah. That's right. It's something that will certainly take time, and I hope that it does work. My instinct is to say, to wish that it would. On the other hand, I'm a bit skeptical that this is going to be the avenue for these things to come about.
How did you feel about, or when you heard the azan calling to prayer?
Well, I was, to be honest, I was much more moved by many of the prayer services that I attended there than I have ever been by a Christian service here. And probably part of that is that I don't speak Turkish, and so I was moved very often, by the aesthetic beauty of the services, and you see these people sort of hurrying in, guys in their street sweeper outfits, pulling their shoes off, or and then businessmen all coming in to pray together. Yeah, it was wonderful to see that, and like I said, I was very moved by the aesthetics of it. Although I have to say, I wasn't planning to convert after that or anything like that. So.
Okay. Magazine about Prophet Muhammad,
right.
And it was depicting him as a bomb,
right.
And this really disappointed the Muslim world. What do you think about that? Knowing how we are sensitive about that.
Well, this is one of the problems, I think, with this kind of religious belief. I think it's the term you used was caricature, and so it's a cartoon, and I think it's been way overblown. It began in Gaza. I can understand why people are reacting against it. They're not reacting so much against that cartoon as they're reacting against a kind of stereotype that it reinforces. Okay. That may or may not be true, but those sort of characterizations that's what a secular state is able to do. It's able to poke fun at religion, and I don't see anything wrong with that. In fact, we do that in the United States all the time. We make fun of how George Bush talks to God, and he makes claims that God told him he was going to be president, right? And I think that's laughable, and it should be poked fun at. Now, I think that in this case, don't be so thin-skinned about it. It's this is what the world is. This is what a secular state means. That religion can be poked fun at, and so I think it's an overreaction on the part of people in Indonesia. When you see the images of the people in Indonesia going and throwing eggs at the Danish embassy, and it's a total disconnect as far as I'm concerned. So, it makes them look. I think that reaction makes Muslims look worse rather than